millers. Is there any recommendations, or at least you could brief us on your end on how you think how the sugar spike has happened or affected us?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the little time we have left. I've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. I have a very short presentation, which I think would have answered a lot of questions that you have today. Some are very simple. It's really out in the open, right? So I don't know if you have the slides and the sorry. I don't know if you have the slides for my presentation.
May we ask the ComSec if but Mr. Lobregat, baka briefly you could run through the presentation.
Okay, the slides are important for everybody to understand. In fact, I've taken the liberty of, for example, when I present my facts, I do not distinguish anymore between raw and refined, right? It's, that's the first one. Can we have the first slide? Next. Okay, this is the first slide. So let me go very briefly. Okay, this chart shows sugar production for the last 25 years. Our country has been self-sufficient with sugar except for a few occasional crop years that were affected by extreme weather events. At the turn of the century, year 2000, production improved through the introduction of new cane varieties developed by Philsurin, a private research arm of the sugar industry. As you know, sugar production is sensitive to extreme weather conditions, also known as climate change. This was the primary reason for the drop in production for the current crop. Tremendous rainfall, lower radiation equal less sugar. For the crop year 21-22, our production was about 1.8 million tons, which is the lowest record in the country for the last 22 years. Before the year 2000, there were years that were lower, but you can see that the production of 2022 is much lower than the previous year, right? Ever since I can remember, sugar production always exceeded local demand. In fact, the Philippines was a reliable exporter of for sugar for many decades. But in the year 2014, 2015, it started to show that production could not keep up with our population. Next slide, please. Here you see the red line is the demand, the green line is production. So the further years back, you can see that the green has always been above the red. But in 2015, it evened out, and the next succeeding years, there has always been a need to import, where the red line is higher than the green. Look at the green line for 2022, right? There's a huge gap between production and demand, right? Next slide, please. Sugar consumption. Our sugar consumption in the year 2000 was, I can't really tell you the figure, but it's that low. And then it went up. If you see that dip, that is when high fructose corn sugar started to come in. And to protect the sugar industry, the excise tax for HFCS was doubled over what it was for sugar, right? HFCS is a very unhealthy product for your liver. You can read about it, but I'm not gonna send. Anyway, in the year 2000, there were 75 million Filipinos. In year 22, we are estimated at 110 million. That's an increase of 47%. the difficulty in achieving optimum efficiency of a plantation crop like sugarcane started to become obvious. Next slide, please. This thin red line that you see is the ideal amount of sugar that should be around at the end of the crop, every August 31st. The ideal level is between 400,000 to 500,000 tons. As you can see, at the end of 2021, we had about 462,000. In the year, at the start of the year of last year, it was predicted that the crop was going to have a supply of a total of 2.56 million tons. This was adding the estimated 2.99 million plus the 462 that you see in the graph as the carryover. Next slide, please. This shows you what happened in crop year 21-22. Okay. The orange line is the 5-year average. The blue line is what happened last year. And you can see that the blue line started to go up in the beginning, but Typhoon Odette hit, right? And after Typhoon Odette hit, it tried to recover, but it never really caught up. And production slowly fell and finished much earlier. The following events started to change the picture. Just as sugar refineries were starting operations, Typhoon Odette hit the country in December 16, 2021. Harvesting, milling, and refining in most parts of Negros was brought to a halt. There was extensive crop damage and flooding in some sugar areas. Mills and refineries also suffered, some more than others. It did not help that La Nina continued unabated in the succeeding months after Odette. And quite frankly, La Nina is still around. It took several weeks for some milling operations to resume, while other mills were able to continue intermittently and at a very slow pace. In time, it was assessed that the supply of refined sugar was dropping, and to ensure its availability, sugar order number 3 was issued on February 2, allowing the importation of 200,000 metric tons of refined grade. However, cases were filed in Negros to declare SO3 null and void, which is a normal case by planters. They are allergic to importations because they have the impression that it will always bring down prices, right? This delayed the imported sugar entry by 3 months. Next slide, please. Here I prepared a slide to show how prices reacted. At the beginning of the year, 53 pesos was the price of refined, 45 was raw. Then Odette hit in December. Sugar order, even before sugar order 3 was issued, you can see that the price of refined was already going up. Why? Because 3 refineries were not producing, right? Raw started to go up not as fast as refined because raw was still coming out, but refined was suffering because of the damaged refineries. And this is why the sugar order number 3 specifically put refined sugar for industrials that were already panicking, right? By the time sugar order number 3 arrived in late May and June, the price graph you can see is already up. Now, I've been ad-libbing, but anyway, you have my report. The uncertainty of SO3's imported sugar arrival led industrial users to buy aggressively whatever domestic sugar was available. A perfect storm was upon us, right? These were things beyond our control. By the end of May, it was obvious that the production for 21-22 was going to miss its target by a huge margin. It did not help that a government in transition also, if you want to call it a temporary paralysis, happened after election. Something like this happened in SRA. Some parties felt that they were in charge, while others said no. And until it was resolved at the end of June, nobody was moving. Nobody wanted to sign anything, right? Sugar stakeholders were again consulted after this for sugar order number 4, but that came a little too late, right? It is estimated, next slide please. We go back to ending inventories. Look at the ending inventory of August of this year. It is way below that red line. And if you wanted an explanation, a clearer, I cannot provide a clearer explanation, okay, to show that how much is needed just to get to that buffer stock, right? And it's only going to get bigger. It is estimated by the SRA that by the end of August 2022, the remaining sugar in the country will be 140,000 metric tons, way below the ideal thin red line that would have kept the market calm. This also means that there will be insignificant inventories of sugar until the harvest of the new crop comes online. In closing, these are events that led us to where we are today, only to be reminded that just as water seeks the lowest level, you cannot go against the law of supply and demand. Hoarding and smuggling are symptoms, not causes of a supply deficit, right? These events of 21-22 are but a big warning, and we must prepare a strategy to attain food self-sufficiency, because food might not just be available from our regular supply chains. This is a very serious matter. I'm surprised that we spent half a day talking about the legalities of whether a sugar order was legal or not. It was well within the president's prerogative to cancel it. He might have had a different set of information. I don't know who provided.
Mr. Lobregat, may I say something? Because you're in the good government, public accountability. Yes. And we are on the next phase of it, we have the agriculture chairman will be discussing it. So we are actually on the phase that we just wanted to prove something, that something went wrong with that SO4. I hope you understand. We already did that, Mr. Lobregat, the first briefing po. And we appreciate very much. I hope, because we get insulted when you say that. You don't understand that we have a half day of discussing the prerogative of the president. I hope you understand where we're coming from. We're just doing our job.
I beg your pardon, Mrs. Chairman. Okay.
Sorry.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's accepted.
Thank you. Lastly, if people want to get any information, the SRA publishes this weekly. And today, in this last one, you can see what is the remaining sugar there is and where it is. I'm surprised that the SRA has not furnished you a copy of this. Yeah.
We actually have all of those coming from, we had a briefer to all.
This is a sugar production bulletin.
Okay, I don't think we have that. So I think we do need to.
Anyway, we will be having
I think
another
it's available
meeting
online. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it?
We will furnish you, sir, if you want.
Yes, please, attorney. Thank you. Just a follow-up question, Mr. Lobregat.
Yes.
Where would you attribute the spike in demand coming from? Industry or household? Both?
Demand has been slowly going up. I would say it's about 2.4.
Is it industry driven, the demand?
I would say today half is industrial use and half is stable use. I mean,
Okay.
like restaurants and household.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lobregat. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a follow-up in connection to what our chairwoman has said. The Public Good Governance Committee is the blue ribbon committee of the House of Representatives, and therefore we investigated this case of SRO number 4, motu proprio, because we want to see if there's malfeasance involved, and that if there are officials that are involved in any corrupt activities, knowing that the president has stopped this for a certain reason, then we need to investigate, and this is a powers of Congress in this committee itself. It just so happens that it is a joint committee between the chair for agriculture and, of course, our public good governance. So again, we do need to investigate this. We need to go forward, and then I would like to ask as a follow-up all the departments here, including our good friend here, Mr. Pablo Lobregat from the Philippine Sugar Millers Association, if you know of all of your pending cases that are lodged in your department, especially those blacklisted importers, we'd appreciate, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, for you to please present to this committee the list of those you have already blacklisted, knowing that maybe in some cases, these certain traders have changed their names, but they have the same directors. So if they can actually submit those papers to us, we would like that from the BOC, the Department of Agriculture, even DTI. You have blacklisted companies that usually have pending cases, or certain companies that should not be dealing with specifically for SRA. Madam Chair, please submit.
Thank you so much, Congressman Tony Pet Albano. Before we end, and of course, I'd like to acknowledge the attendance of the following members of the House. They were here a while ago. It is proper for me to thank them for joining us. Congressman Joseph Gilbert Villago, Congressman Joey Salceda, Congressman Representative Velasco, and via Zoom we have Representative Arnold Teves, Jose Pajernos, Congressman Adrian Amatong, Congressman Eddie Bong Plaza, Congressman Ralph Tulfo, Congressman Edward Mazeda, and of course, I'd like to stand corrected for the name, Congressman Jose Pajernos. Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, would you like to add some more?
Yes, housekeeping matter, Madam Chair. May I include the Honorable Eskimo Estrella as being present in our previous meeting, August 15. August 15.
August 15, for
Wala po
correction.
sa minutes, so may I request that he be added as he attended to correct the minutes.
Yes, may we
As he
request our
attended.
committee secretariat to do some addendum and of course change whatever is missing. Again, to all of us, as there are other members who would like to register for interpolation or wala na talaga interpolation, are there any matters for the joint
Madam
committee?
Chairwoman, Madam Chairperson, Mark, it was a pleasure having this committee, joint committee. And I think you guys did a good job. We would like to just encourage most of you, especially the invited guests, to bear with us, because it's really a hard process and it's a lengthy process. Without other interpolators, Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman, I would like to move for the adjournment of this session.
Kong Lee?
Yeah, second the motion.
Before we adjourn, may I remind the resource speakers to comply with the required submissions of other position papers. The meeting is now adjourned. On the part
Yeah.
of agriculture,
On the part of the Committee on Agriculture and Food, this meeting is hereby adjourned.
thank you so much, everyone.